And we're live.
All right. Welcome back. And Jim, do you have any thoughts or sharing on the offsite that you did? Anything notable that you want to talk about? And
yeah, I mean, all of us here at SaaS Alerts last week was that we were at a Kaseya product kickoff in Phoenix, Arizona, which is why we weren't here. It was it was well done. We talked a lot about a lot of exciting product enhancements and killer features and platform improvements that we're making in 2025. One of which is Kaseya SIM, which we'll have version 1 of in at the end of April. So that's really exciting. Other than that, I mean, probably not a lot of things that people would find terribly exciting or useful on this call, but that one specifically, I think people are going to be excited about.
Jim, should we assume SaaS Alerts is logs are being dumped into, if you have Kaseya SIM into it?
Yes.
Okay.
So that makes you a SOAR now, doesn't it?
Yeah, we were kind of before, but now obviously we're getting a lot of the device and network and on-prem data from Rocket. So we're leveraging the core components of Rocket, the core components of SaaS Alerts, and developing a SIM, a managed SIM. It'll be a managed SIM.
Okay. Got it. I'm still on the cliffhanger from Liron's last showing the week before you guys left of the IOC stuff. I thought that was so cool.
It is. So there's a lot of really great things on the docket for 2025.
Very cool. All right. Well, Jim, I'll hand it to you for wins of the week to kick that off.
Yeah. So for those that are not Kaseya customers, there's something that we do as executives at Kaseya called pulse checks. And essentially, there are 30-minute calls with an executive at Kaseya where we find out what's going on in your business, how we're doing, and how we can best improve our service to you, the MSP or end customer. And I had 3 yesterday. And 2 out of the 3 use SaaS Alerts. And they both said how invaluable SaaS Alerts has become for them, and that just within the last week, both of them caught business email compromises on behalf of their customer and token hijackings. So it's no secret that the folks on this call how pervasive these attacks have become, and it's just really cool to hear how people are leveraging SaaS Alerts as their core, as the core platform to mitigate those risks.
That's awesome, Jim.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
So anybody else want to share?
Enrique caught something, Jim. I don't know if you heard.
No, I came in a couple minutes late, so I didn't catch it.
I think it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, I see right here in the chat. He entered an IP address.
Yeah, it happened at the 46-minute mark, so about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Happy and I'm sad.
Successful login with MFA.
Yep.
Okay.
She approved it, but the sad part is, the good thing is we're now part of a big umbrella, but I still have not seen it through SaaS. I got an immediate call from RocketCyber and had them kill it, but still have not gotten any text message. I got from managed SaaS Alerts. I got an email saying about risky behavior, but still have not seen anything directly from SaaS.
Do you have a respond rule in place for this customer? Okay.
Yes, for everyone. And earlier this week, I had one from Germany at 2:40 in the morning, and you guys came in about 10 minutes after I got the call. But yeah, this one I'm surprised hasn't come in yet. I usually get a text message as well. Good thing is it stopped and killed. So.
Okay. Chip, do you have a question for Enrique?
Yeah, Enrique, if you do us a favor and maybe email over, since you probably don't want to put it in chat here, the customer organization name.
I
I'm
will.
sure
I'll send
Liron
all the
or
details.
myself or somebody will want to take a look at the back end data and see what's going on there.
Definitely, Chip, I will. Thanks.
Good.
But it's a win any which way.
Mhm.
We'll
Yeah.
take it.
They
Yeah.
stopped it. Huge.
Yeah, that is something that's come up where sometimes the login event doesn't happen until later. The auditing events occur more quickly from some of the other sources, and yeah, it can almost be a trigger before we see the login, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and Alex just mentioned something about, performing an audit and things going into quiet mode.
That's why you
Yeah.
might have not been alerted.
Was that specific to Enrique's MSP, Alex?
We did it for everybody, MSA. Performed an audit on all of them.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I
that's
can
some-
change that to get you notified for the respond rules if you'd like.
Well, I am getting respond rules because I had 3 employees from a company go to Guatemala and you guys responded yesterday. So I am getting the respond. This one's a really weird one.
Yeah, I'll-
They forgot to whitelist on time. They whitelisted after we reached out when they were dropped by respond yesterday morning and afternoon. But yeah, this one, I got the MSA one for risky behavior from Microsoft.
That's what I was referring to. So you did get that notification.
I got the email and the text both.
Good.
And I have text anytime MSA creates a ticket, I get a text.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
What kind of coffee's that, Enrique?
Mac Cafe.
Oh, funny.
All right. Anyone else? I want to know who Gary's talking to, more importantly. It sounds like a really important call. Good to see you, Anne. Let's see. Cory, you said you're still battling the folks from was it Netherlands or
Lithuania.
Lithuania. We want to hear Cory say it 3 times fast, though.
It takes me a while. For the longest, I couldn't say proprietary. I have to slow down when I go to say it. For the longest, I couldn't say that word. Proprietary. Yes, Lithuania is just going crazy right now, trying to compromise vulnerabilities within VPNs, just doing a bunch of password sprays, brute force attempts. Yeah. In one night, we sent out 15 alerts within an hour. We saw them running their automation.
Cory, is it the typical like the Fortinets, the Sonic walls that have been more pronounced recently?
Correct.
So is it like they're scanning oh God, why am I drawing a blank?
Well, they're scanning default ports for one.
Okay.
So I'll try to talk quickly.
Yeah.
For those that around firewall security. So a lot of companies use default ports when they set up these VPN capabilities, right? So example, Sonic Wall is 4433. That's the port.
Right.
So what an adversary, if you don't follow best practice and change that default port, what an adversary can do is they can do what I call a spray and pray across the internet. If they're targeting Sonic Walls as an example, to say, okay, send it out across all these public IPs that I have in this database, see if I get a response across port 443. If they get a response, now they're going to target that particular firewall, right? So that's the benefit of changing the default ports per best practice. Same when it comes to Fortinets, WatchGuards, et cetera. They just have a different port they use. Past that, what we're finding is a lot of these attacks can be easily mitigated, at least the attempts, if you're using geofencing. So plain and simple, if your employees are in the United States and they shouldn't be logging in, same as SaaS alerts, right? You're authorizing countries. You should do the same thing for your firewall. You shouldn't allow VPN to be able to log in from every single country, right? So restrict it to just that specific country. pretty much all those tickets I sent, none of geofencing wasn't enabled for any of those particular partners. Other simple things you can do is don't allow everybody to VPN. What we found, and this was a compromise we had to deal with recently, was there was an old account, didn't have MFA enabled on it because it was an old account, but it was still allowed to VPN into the environment. That's why you should have a specific list of people that you add that you want to allow to VPN through your firewall. We're just going
Well,
back
and
to the
Cory-
basics.
Then Corey, like, you know, I don't know how many times we talked about it, and some classic compromises on service accounts even, right? Like just inventory of service accounts that, you know, that had VPNs and things like that are still in use, right?
So,
So
I mean, this is,
what I was drawing a blank on was Shodan. It's kind of like playbook, right? Use Shodan, then spray and pray.
exactly. See what
Yeah.
ports are open, boom. Now, albeit for the conspiracy theorists in the room, changing the default port doesn't necessarily make you invisible, right? Security by obfuscarity. So if
Right.
you're actually targeting your account, they can scan for what ports are available and identify what your VPN port is. But by initially changing it, you're taking yourself out of the equation of the initial spray and pray, right? Where they're seeing who is using this type of firewall.
Right.
Good.
Good.
The end state or the second stage when they successfully get through that firewall, get a VPN connection, is it standard? They trying to place some malware payload on a specific machine, or they're looking for server resources? What are you guys seeing as the behavior?
It's standard, living off the land. It's, you know, lateral movement within the environment. Some VPNs, you know, specify, well, if this person's coming in, the VPN will automatically direct them to their desktop that's at their desk, and then they're just going to pivot. A lot of these vulnerabilities on these firewalls allow them to even bypass MFA. So if they have proper username and credentials, they can still get in. They're able to hijack existing sessions that are out there as well. There's plenty of videos out there showing that. So, but obviously once they get in, and this is the things that we've had to deal with, adversaries are smarter. They know what type of tools are out there. They know how to look for what tools are out there, and they know what will trigger some form of alert. A lot of them are now running with the assumption that there's someone monitoring, there's some SOC in play. So they're getting clever, right? They're getting sneakier with what they're doing. And when the boom, hashtag write a boom, when the boom actually happens, right? What we found through the root cause analysis is the entry point was the firewall. It was, they were able to pivot laterally to go to that server. They were able to get your antivirus off the machine, and then they were able to detonate their ransomware. So again, even with tamper protection, I don't care what antivirus you have, there's an easy, great possibility that they can get that. They can just Google how to rip out your antivirus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll get off my
It's
soapbox.
no, it's
So
great.
you really need to have active monitoring and a SIM to capture all this information
You have
and
to.
have a SOC to make a
So-
difference.
So many MSPs I've talked to, especially at conferences, they're their own SOC,
Yeah.
but
No.
they don't have 24-hour operations. Their engineers deal with the alerts. I even had someone tell me that he doesn't need a SOC because he's a volunteer firefighter, and certain tones on his phone will wake him up in the middle of the night.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Cool. But
This is
The-
another reason for MSA.
dwell time is huge.
Yeah.
It's critical on how quick someone, I mean, Enrique talked about it in the very beginning, right? The amount of time it took from the adversaries doing there until RocketCyber was able to call him. If RocketCyber was not in play, at what point would have Enrique identified there's something anomalistic happening at the CPA company?
Well, funny thing, she was messaging me via WhatsApp directly already, and I didn't have her number saved. But when I saw a weird message, she's like, I don't know what the first message was. And I'm like, Dora, that's her name. And she's like, yes. I go, you've been breached. She go, yes, I know. So I guess after the fact, she remembered she hit. Maybe when she was clicking, she saw in the corner of her eye Lithuania. But it was too late because she was on it immediately. And I asked her what time she clicked. She said she clicked at 10:43 a.m. Central Time. And the call from RocketCyber was at.
To me, that's an outlier, though. I feel like most end users won't report it. One, they
Oh,
just
yeah.
won't recognize that they've done
They
it,
won't
or even if
recognize.
they've done it, they're trying to like, oh.
I think she was kind of aware because the issue she had last time. I got the call at 10:56 a.m., so 13 minutes later.
Come to Write a Boom to learn more about SOC services and how this works.
Right, sitting Cory and Cory's session. It's gonna be a good one. Their pre-day.
These things just hit me personally when they get compromised. Takes me back to my compromise.
I'm sure.
Hey, Enrique, what specific MFA method were they using?
I haven't digged in to see if they were using passwordless sign-in, because right now my question is, did she have passwordless sign-in, which to me is very dangerous, even though we use it a lot, because someone just has to put in your email and you get a push notification and you approve it and you're in. I don't know what exactly. I need to get in a call with her later today. I just wanted her to calm down a little, because it's Microsoft Authenticator. She hit it on the app. But my question is, how did she get the 2 digits? Does she put in the credentials on a website?
That's exactly what
Those
I
are
was
all my
asking.
questions. Yeah. Well, I'm going to get on a call with her a little later. I just told her catch up with your work right now, got her back up and running, and no rules were created, nothing else suspicious except that successful login from Lithuania and following were Los Angeles attempts.
Yeah. I think also what this is, what I love about this call, Chip, is, this like just typifies how, the notion where SMBs are, no one's interested in me. It's like, week after week, it's like, oh yes, they are. They don't care who you are, you know what I'm saying, bud?
Yeah,
These are
absolutely.
It is a construction company. They build warehouses from 20 to 50, $70 million warehouses. So their payments to vendors, concrete companies, are in the millions.
Yeah. Well,
You're not talking peanuts here as far as the money that gets moved.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting, Enrique. Interesting. Good. We really love that. What you can debrief next week would be really cool to hear.
I'll get the full detail.
Everything.
You'll get the
That's what-
Pelicans brief.
I just want to say, this is really what's special about SaaS Alerts, is that we're able to take time and talk about something like this, and for all of us to see what it feels like and how to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a valuable experience.
Yeah. Well, in honor of Tina, shirts off to everybody.
There you go. It wasn't a shirt; it was only a jacket.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, jackets. I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, Chip.
Yeah, that's right.
It's your call, Andrew.
Oh, I was just going to chime in, ditto on jotting down some notes. Really great things to learn. And we had a client, it was unrelated to SaaS Alerts, but they clicked on a phishing link. And I think that a lot of users, and we try to remind them of this, like they do something and then they say like, oh, their computer, like it's not smoking or nothing bad's happening. And then they think 2 weeks later, it turns out, then we heard about it from the client. It was like full identity theft. They got into something else. It was awful. But they initially think, oh, well, yeah, I shouldn't have clicked on that, but it doesn't look like anything happened. So, yeah, so it's good to be able to remind, anonymously of these stories that they actually are happening to SMBs.
More and more, Ann. More and more. And I think what's interesting too, we've said this, but I think it's worth noting. Vulnerabilities and identity are really where things are today. We've said before, EDRs are pretty good. Are they impervious? Absolutely not. Especially as Cory just outlined, when you're using a living off the land technique and you're on the inside and can turn it off. But outside, I mean, you can kind of break it down to, if you were to, being a betting person, and here's, you're going to Vegas and here's $1,000. What are the 2 most likely ways a threat actor is going to get into your environment? Social engineering of some type, or a vulnerability these days.
What does Microsoft hold you accountable for? Those 2 pieces.
Oh, you mean in a shared responsibility model?
Yes.
of course, of course is your responsibility. All right, any others to share?
We had a sister company of one of our clients that got a compromise, and they didn't have a lot of our services, and so it's one where there was a lot of like E1 users, and were kind of managing on their own, and so things weren't turned on for security defaults and everything. And so yeah, last week we had one that we thought we had contained, and then it was reinfected on other users. I don't think, due to the licensing, we weren't able to really do a search and purge on it, and we ended up having a couple other accounts get BC'd there, and ended up having to issue a forced password changes for 400 so mailboxes just to get everybody, just to kind of clear the slate and try to eliminate the threats there. And so it can be a little daunting when you're trying to deal with that, and then also communicate effectively how to get everybody logged back in and keep the service desk from losing it on you. And so yeah, it was that can have its own sort of impact from when these things aren't in place.
Stephen, what caused this reversal to the other accounts here? Was this like a mass susception to a brute force attack and with no MFA, or did they get?
Well, there was
admin
bulk
account
emails
first?
that went out, and so I think a few people clicked on the email before we removed the SharePoint file. They were sharing a SharePoint file or a OneDrive file document, and then there was something that they kind of clicked through, I guess, and so they got a few people to click on the internal copy of that went through.
Got it.
Steven, you said it was a sister company. Was the company that got infected managed by you, that the sister company, or no?
Well, they received one of them, and so we had iron scales at them, and so it got reported, and there were like 40 emails that were scooped up by it. And so our client that we manage, it reported, and we remediated and cleaned it up kind of automatically. But when we were investigating it, we realized, oh, this was sent by your sister company. We need to go looking over here.
Okay.
So yeah, our client reported it, so they were lucky in that regard. Otherwise, they might not have known right away.
Interesting.
So
it's
hopefully we'll get that in place.
Yeah, and again, one of the things we're going to talk about today is whether it's service providers, supply chain, sister companies, what have you. It's you're going to see from a report I found really becoming a major concern or major problem.
Yeah, as far as managing your risks, yeah, it's for sure one of those categories that who do you partner with? Yeah.
Yeah, huge, right, Stephen? But love to, yeah. I'm gonna message in a minute. Okay, any others? Okay. Is there anything, Liron, from the dev team?
Yeah, just one quick note. We recently added a feature that allows those of you that are using the share link in order to have your customers or users connect applications, right? So a situation where you don't have the admin credentials and you go in, and when you do the connection, you select the products that you want, you generate a link, and you send it to them. So previously with Microsoft, you needed to send them the manage one first, and then you would have to send Fortify, Responder, Defender. We've enhanced that after getting some feedback that, hey, we want to do all 4 of them at the same time. So now when you generate that URL and you've selected Manage, Defender, Respond, and Fortify, they can connect all 4 of those in a single shot.
Is it optional or is it all 4 period?
It's all optional, right? So let's say, Andy, you just want
2 of
Manage
them, let's
and
say, right?
Respond.
Uh-huh.
That's the only thing that they're going to see when they get the link.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Oh, and Leron, you saw the when we were talking the IOCs, the different levels, the traffic light protocols, and a little bit.
Yes, I did. I started looking into that, but I'm in the middle of a whole bunch of reporting at the moment.
I'm
It's
sure.
on my to-do list.
Yeah, it got the whole IOC thing got me really pumped, and I'm excited for what you might do with that.
Hey, Andrew, start threat hunting for us. Give us some IOCs.
You got it.
Is
All
there
right.
any information on that IOC? I missed last week's, and so I'll watch the recording. I'll catch up there, actually. Never mind.
To make a long story short, they're basically custom events in the Respond user interface, more or less.
Super. Yeah, I've been looking for a way to kind of preview some of these things, or that sort of concept. Sounds cool.
May I ask? Go ahead. Sorry.
And Stephen, the idea eventually, in a perfect world, right? It's if we get to a sharing concept, it's like, hey, Enrique just saw this IP address from Lithuania, blah, 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 TLP red, it's quote unquote hot, but I want to share this, right, amongst the SaaS alerts community. There would be some clearinghouse, right, that MSA, let's just say it's under some amount, they would clear it. So that's the idea behind, IOC sharing. And then in a perfect world, if it all came together, this is, by the way, this is me saying this, Stephen, this is not SaaS Alert saying this, but that's the potential that something like this has.
Yeah, some sort of rule export or import concept, something close to that almost, or way to check this rule. Yeah.
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Andy, sorry, I stepped on. Go ahead.
No, I was just beginning to think through the SEIM idea that's coming and how the RocketCyber is triggering and calling us. And if there was a respond rule, wouldn't it be nice to have it trigger or give the feedback to the RocketCyber to do this task anyway, and or with multiples coming in on the SEIM, we could give back information to MSA to say make these adjustments and then have it pass back. I'm beginning to see how we could be much more responsive across multiple MSPs and multiple clients if we had that kind of feedback loop going.
Yeah, I mean, look, you see that today, that concept, Andy, with some of the enterprise email organizations where they'll see us as an email that's nefarious, and they'll rip it globally out of everybody's mailbox from that sender. So that type of, I would, again, we don't know where they're going, but absolutely. All right, so let's go to the weekend threat. Interestingly, what Cory said is kind of noted here in the kind of the culmination of what we saw in vulnerabilities in 2024. This is Kev is known exploited vulnerability. CISA Kev has a whole database. If you ever want to look CISA, Google CISA Kev, they publish daily, and you can download it and everything of the most recent known exploited vulnerabilities. I'll put the URL where this comes from. This source was Volcheck, but the point is vols continue to increase from the perspective of exploitation. And in fact, the point is it's really a race against patch is what I said, right? So if you notice, like, think about this, 1 in 4, once either on or before the CVE publication, they are being weaponized and exploited by threat actors. long-winded way of saying, if you don't have a vulnerability scanner worth its weight right now, I would highly encourage you to get one. They are not expensive. And just listen to Cory, who's dealing with this day in, day out. The threat actors are going to scan internet-facing devices on a continuous basis, and they are going to leverage whatever is easily vulnerable and exploitable. Ports open, and talk about, common things that a good scanner will pick up. Chip, here's a common story you will hear is, and this is where supply chain or service providers, you're the MSP, your client has a line of business application that you don't touch. The service provider for the line of business app has to come in, open a port, blah, 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 don't close the port. That is a common way you will find threat actors, knocking on ports and getting in. I don't know if
You almost have to be doing a continual vulnerability process. I mean, daily is what I'm hearing you say here.
continues.
Almost.
You
Yeah.
should at this point. Yeah. The scanning, like the days of we do a vulnerability scan once a quarter, once a year. Like if you're doing that these days,
You're a matter of time. You're a shared responsibility model in the wrong way.
you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Continuous is the key term there that Andrew
I'm
used.
totally get you there.
Chip, here's a spin on something we've been talking about ad nauseum, but it's not M365, it's ADFS. So this is once again posing as the help desk. However, instead of M365, we are going for the Grand Poobah, as it were. And again, you can see they are focusing on education, healthcare, and government organizations, all of which typically have very strong security teams. By the way, that sarcasm.
They're still using local domain controllers because they have people who've been working there for 35 years and don't want to give up their jobs and move to a SaaS-based architecture.
Or the Kansas-based government that compromised this past summer, who, even though they were warned by the MSP to change all their passwords, they said, no, we've been using the same ones for 14 years. It's going to be too difficult to change them all.
Yeah, 14 years ago, their password complexity model was 6 characters. That was the whole requirement.
But if you take a look here, spoofed emails, this is what they look like. Coming from, as you can see, it's from the service desk, Chip. It's like the stuff you and I get and pass back every week. Trusted, it's from the service desk. And they do a hell of a job once you click, making it look incredibly legitimate. In fact, even taking, grabs of what the specific ADFS login page looks like. So literally verbatim, in essence. And then even to the degree of if there is MFA invoked, whether it's Duo, they have 3 flavors, Duo, Microsoft, or SMS. They will gladly give you the push notification for Microsoft or the others as well. There we have it with that. And as you can see here, in fact, Cory, again, talked to us about the last one, which is VPN. These are all the classic things we are seeing used over and over and over to, stay under the radar. They redirect and get in. They, once they're in, obviously they're stealing stuff, moving laterally, and then setting up using either VPNs and or other obfuscating type living off the land techniques. So just thought it was an interesting one. This just came out. Again, same dog, just a different, or different fleas, or whatever they say, Chip. Same dog, different fleas. It's the same genre of TTPs, just now with ADFS. So I thought that was interesting.
What's most interesting to me is I never ever heard that expression before. That's a great one.
Same dog, different fleas.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Well,
Same
this is
fleas, different dog.
All right. I see some chat going on. Did I miss anything? Do I need to address anything, or is that just internally? Password 14, yeah, right, Ann. Okay. All right. So next, I found this threat report, and I thought it was interesting in sharing because this looks at not just, every day, every week when we meet, we're talking about, specifically, we're very narrow, right? In the sense of they're attacking but this is a little bit broader from the World Economic Forum of the state of cybersecurity and the threats. And I thought it was interesting. Let me walk through a little bit with you. Please stop me and interject. Again, this is not meant to be monosyllabic where it's just coming from me. And again, whoever can keep an eye on chat, if I should stop or answer a question or let somebody talk, please let me know. Okay, so the holistic way that they looked at this, I thought was really cool. Obviously, we know, and we've talked about these things, but the supply chain interdependency is a theme we're going to see a lot of, and call it whether it's supply chain, service provider, what have you. I don't know if I have it really handy. Oh yeah, but before I jump, but you're seeing this holistic look, if you will, at how complex the cybersecurity landscape is getting, right? We've talked on this about, AI, compliance, etc., right? Hold that thought on supply chain because, as an example, Enrique, we just talked about your situation, right? We talked about Steven's situation. And lo and behold, I don't know if you guys saw this, but this just happened the other day. Have you guys seen this one as well? And I think it's notable just to talk about real quick as I jump out of that report, which is, here at Grubhub, again, they didn't get compromised initially. It was one of their service providers who got compromised, who made their way into Grubhub, and then for the actual data exfiltration coming from that. So have you guys seen that? I know Chip might be offline, but
No, I'm here.
Okay. Have you seen this one, Chip?
I haven't. Can you make it a little bigger?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank God I live too far away to use Grubhub.
But it speaks to what, for example, Enrique, that CPA, I don't know if it was the CPA of the construction company or a CPA who works with the construction company.
She's an employee and she's a full-time employee. She's in charge of all the finances and stuff.
Okay. But where Stevens really is a supply chain situation, right? My point simply is, man, this is getting close to home for people to go, and how to change the sales conversations from let's talk about your security controls. No, let's talk about who's in your supply chain. Let's talk about who your biggest, I've said this before. Let's talk about who your biggest customers are, right? Let's look at the contractual obligations you have with them, on and on and on and on. Let's change the narrative of the conversation and talk business, not tech. Okay, back to here. This breaks it down a little bit when we look specifically at each of these segments. And I'm going to show you in a moment the breakdown between SMB and enterprise. This is not all enterprise based as it would seem, because it says 54% of large organizations, et cetera, et cetera. However, some things that are going to come to light, you might sit there and go, well, geopolitical tensions don't matter, to SMBs, that I shouldn't even bring that up in my sales conversations, right? Well, we have seen things, for example, and I'm leading into the geopolitical, we've seen disasters this year quite a bit. We saw Asheville, North Carolina. We've seen Los Angeles. But what happens if we see, the fact that, in your city, and this is not far-fetched to say because we're going to see this if we have time in the data, that the main water source in your city has been contaminated. Well, that piece of cyber does, in essence, right? Wouldn't that have an impact on how your customers are doing business, right? You can't mitigate what happens to the water supply. However, it does. My point is that all of these things, all of these cyber risks are playing into the resilience of your customer. That is the point. How resilient is the customer? We've certainly talked about, the emergence of AI and how they're affecting things. Again, we talked about the supply chain independence, the skills gap. This is where you guys all come in, right? Bridging that skills gap that most of your customers can't handle. Obviously, Enrique saved his customer today. Cory's saving customers, et cetera. Steven's saving customers. And again, the increasing regulatory requirements. And as we said, your customer might say, well, we don't have compliance. Okay. Does your biggest customer, do they have compliance requirements? Because if they do, they're coming downstream to you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. So this grid, I wanted to get to you again. I'll always share this with you, but is this somewhat helpful in maybe painting a different conversation of things to consider with a customer that isn't necessarily just about security controls? I don't know. Your thoughts, Ann? You always look a little, to me, holistically at the business, not just very techy.
Yeah, I think this is really great information. So I'm jotting, I want to read the whole thing now. And I like what you say. It's about a business conversation, not a technical conversation.
Yeah, and I will put the real quick here for everybody. I will put this PDF, the World Economic, so you can take all the goods. Let me put it in chat for everybody. It's an excellent report. That's in there now for you all. This is the interesting part of. So again, they certainly do talk a lot about enterprise and CISOs and large corporations, but they do actually look at the S and SMB portion of it. And as you're seeing here, this is where we come in, is that being prepared is, you can see where the larger enterprises are making some headway, right? They have the budget, the sophistication, the board is more aware, right, of the risk. The board is bought in, CISOs sit in the boardroom. So therefore, it makes sense that you're getting buy-in. And let me, again, air quoting, pick on you again. Like when you talk to an SMB, this is where we struggle. Are we going to get the executives all on board? Oh yeah, it's a problem. Of course it's a problem. That's where we have to advocate as their CISO, right? CISO, if you will, to say, look, you've got to deal with all this in one way or another, right? And let's, again, drive it into the business side of the conversation, not just the tech. And this is, again, is showing the graph just a little bit differently about being prepared or unprepared. I thought this was, again, a little bit interesting, but this also plays into what we're seeing in essence from what Cory is talking about. So today he's talking about Lithuania. Here's my point. He's talked before about threat actors from, I think we have Cory, right? Talked Latin America and Africa on this show as well, if I remember, bud.
Yep.
So here's my point. You go to these regions and there's obviously immense economic disparity. This economic disparity is not just showing up, again, in kinetic type confrontations, there's a reason we're seeing, why do we see the IPs coming from more from these regions attacking us? Because number one, they're in a bit dire situations relative to us. They have a lot less to lose than us. And you can see economically they're deprived. Now you're looking at this now from the business side of those countries, but it also tells the criminal side of those countries, if I'm conveying that in a manner that's relatable. Here we go. Supply chain vulnerabilities, top ecosystem risk, right? So this is where, if I, again, 25 years ago, I think, now or a little less when I was, again, in a VAR system integrator, not MSP at the time. But had I opened up an MSP door today, again, it's business conversations. It's about who is on our supply chain, what is our risk to one another, again, and do we know, do we know the key systems our customers use? Like, if there's a Fortinet vulnerability, do we know our largest customers, are they running Fortinet? Or are we doing, security questionnaires back and forth? Those types of things. We talked about this, by the way, this goes into the supply chain. By the way, any questions there, Amy? Are we seeing in the chat at all? I'm sorry, running through this.
No, there's some just comments going back and forth. No questions.
Okay. Chip, are you still with me, bud?
Oh yeah, I'm still stuck on slide 15. I've been pondering that since you moved off it and was going to take it back to it eventually.
So this is one which I think is interesting, is that what's an organization's biggest concern, and it's ransomware. And I get that. But what's interesting is as I like to say, and I didn't make this up, ransomware is the end result. You know what I'm saying, Chip? Like, in other words,
absolutely.
Go ahead, bud.
The terminal failure, is when you notice all the problems that led up to it.
Right. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting that, and I get it, right? People are worried about the end result. Makes sense. But I thought it was interesting that it dwarfed really what leads to it all, which is social engineering, and that's the attack vector. So
yeah,
it was just I wanted to just bring that to kind of maybe to get your thoughts in closing.
It's a height of mind issue, Andrew, right? Everyone, the term ransomware is ubiquitous in not just the vernacular of security people, but kind of everybody knows the term ransomware attack and what that means, and hackers demanding Bitcoin for having stolen data. I think that's a common term to certainly any information technology work, and maybe even those that aren't. So I think that's probably why it sticks out at the top more than anything else. Which relates to my observation on slide 15, if you want to go back to that. What jumped out at me on this, and it's not directly related to our regular conversation on cybersecurity, but 48% of North America believes that our country is well prepared to respond to cyber incidents targeting critical infrastructure. And we look at the numbers there. Like, there seems to me to be a lot of hubris, because I think people in the United States just take for granted that their water and their power and all the shit is always going to work. And yet, when we dig into it, we being our community, at least I am constantly reading that for all intents and purposes, most of our critical infrastructure has been compromised, and it's just lying in wait to get plastered at any time people want to start messing with SCADA systems and everything that goes along with it. I'm just really surprised at this.
Yeah, and we'll pick it up next week, and it goes in line with this, which is, again, concern. What are the greatest concerns? And I think this is a massive opportunity for MSPs, which is OT, right? Operational technologies. I think it's a hugely underserved area. And I think to your point, Chip, you can see it's not even on people's radar, but it's what
Nope.
controls our water, our infrastructure. So yeah. And it's old as you know what. So, all right. Well, I will send this over. Yeah,
Tariff hackers, I like that. Well, tariff Bitcoin, that's what's going to happen.
What?
That's awesome, Cory.
Cory said, "Can we tariff hackers?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll just have to start tariffing Bitcoin."
All right. Well, that's all I got, Amy. I'll send this over to you. Amy, all
right.
the best. Wishing you.
Thank you.
So take care, everybody.
Goodbye forever, Amy.
Bye, guys. Amy, best of
Bye,
luck.
guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Did you get the email?